I no longer charge my cell phone at my bedside. I don't use it as my clock. It gives me 10 to 15 minutes before bed where I don't get exposed to my phone, and 10 to 15 minutes in the morning. That's been a game changer for me.
How much are you utilizing AI when it comes to your practice?
It's woven into everything we do now. I think AI is going to revolutionize health.
Today, we have Dr. Darshan Shah, a renowned surgeon, health innovator, and the founder and CEO of Next Health.
He's also the host of the Extend podcast, an international speaker and author dedicated to transforming lives through health and holistic care.
A doctor, man, at 21. You must have been like the top of your class or something.
Look, it was a combination of hard work, being dedicated to learning, and also a lot of luck.
Right. Mitochondria.
Big fan of mitochondria.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking you. What is it that you're doing with the mitochondria?
Here's how I break it down for my patients.
When it comes to bioquantum and like frequency medicine, what are your thoughts?
I'm a big believer in plants have a very significant role in medicine. And if you look at a lot of the pharmaceuticals, they're derived from plants. 60% of people over the age of 50 have high blood pressure. They need to get that treated and really tightly managed.
Who is one celebrity that's out there that you want to see take control of their health?
I know him.
Welcome to another episode of a Healthy Point of View podcast. Today we have a guest. As you guys know, we interview experts from all over the world in health, beauty, wellness. And today we have one of the top doctors in the longevity space. This guy, he became a doctor from a very young age. He's like the real life Doogie Howser. He's doing all kinds of different type of forward-thinking treatments. He's working with some of the top people. He is considered a celebrity doctor. And today we get the opportunity to interview him. And you guys probably see him all the time interviewing other people, but today's my turn to interview him. So today we have Dr. Darshan Shah from California. Doc, how are you?
I'm doing great. So happy to be here, man. Thank you for having me.
It's amazing, man. Dude, I see you all over social media, interviewing, moving around, all the top people in the biohacking longevity space.
Yeah.
Like, man, I want to just like digging deep into like what even brought this passion to you, because you initially started off, or most of your career initially was as a general surgeon.
Right.
So
Right.
You're talking about being more in that traditional medicine world,
Right.
where now you have a strong focus on preventing people from actually going on that operating table.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
So 21 years old. Let's start from there, man. Like 21 years old as a doctor, like I'm thinking about when I was 21, there was nothing at all of me thinking about me being a doctor or anything of that caliber, right? I was kind of thinking more. Actually, I did start at the fire department at the age of 20, so I was kind of doing emergency medicine. But a doctor, man, at 21, like, so let's talk about that. You must have been like the top of your class or something.
You know, I think when I went through grade school and high school, because that's where it all started, I skipped a couple of grades there.
Okay.
Skipped a year of high school, skipped a year of grade school. And that put me a couple years ahead. And then I went to this special program in Kansas City, Missouri, that instead of 8 years, like 4 years of college, 4 years of medical school, they compress it down to 6 years.
Wow.
That's how they do it in like England. And they modeled after that system. And there's like 5 schools in the country that did that back then. And I was able to join that program, which, you know, look, it was a combination of hard work, being dedicated to learning, and also a lot of luck, you know? And
Right.
so I think it just all kind of came together for me. I wasn't trying to graduate at 21. It just kind of like, you know, one thing happened after the other. And then all of a sudden here I am in medical school and I'm 16 years old and doing surgery when I was 21 as a surgery resident.
That's amazing, man. Friends and family, what would they say when it's like, man, you know, like,
Yeah.
My little cousin, only 21 years old, he's like operating on people. Like, what would they say?
So, you know, my family, I come from a long line of doctors, actually.
I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
That.
And so my family, many of them are doctors. I think they're all a little bit maybe envious. I got done with it a little bit earlier, but you know what it is? In the long term, the benefit of this has been that I've had multiple decades in medicine already. I'm 52 years old. I've had 3 decades in medicine.
Wow.
So I've had the ability to change my career trajectory in medicine for 3 times now, you know, basically 10 years in 3 different aspects of medicine that I was practicing. And I've seen it all. And you say, like, what brings upon this passion for what I'm doing now? I just feel like this is how I've always wanted to practice medicine.
Right.
Is to focus on preventing disease, reversing chronic disease, and truly getting people healthy.
Yeah, I agree with. So all three. What are the three?
So my first decade in medicine after the age of 21 was spent doing general surgery and trauma surgery. So that's, I saw everything. Like I was
bet.
operating in the chest cavity, in the abdominal cavity, in the brain, in the everywhere. And trauma, as you know, in your career, you saw a lot of trauma. People are messed up after car accidents, and so you have to really know the human body well, not just from an anatomical standpoint, but also a physiological standpoint. Because when you're a trauma surgeon, once you're done with surgery, it doesn't end there. You take that patient to the ICU and you try to keep them alive. Right. And so that's there's a lot of medicines you need to know, how to run a ventilator, et cetera. So I was the first 10 years. After 10 years of that, and this probably happened to you as well, and you get tired, right? Like a lot of this stuff happens at nighttime. Yeah. It's a huge adrenaline rush.
You hit burnout very quickly.
I got burned out. You said it exactly. So then I went to the Mayo Clinic to study reconstructive surgery.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Nice. So that's where people have cancer, and there's cancer doctors that remove the cancer, and they leave big places in the body with no skin or covering. And so I would come in as a plastic and reconstructive surgeon and reconstruct those defects. And that's much more finessed surgery and super technical. And so I spent 10 years doing that. And then after doing plastics and reconstructive for 10 years, I found myself, because of a high stress lifestyle, not sleeping, just working really, really hard all the time as a surgeon. I would spend 12 hours in surgery, and then I would spend another 12 hours trying to run the business. So, I was working all the time. I found myself in a state of very poor health. And because I'm a Western medicine trained doctor, the only thing I knew how to do was to diagnose the disease and then do a pill or surgery to fix that disease, right? But I was taking a handful, like 10 different prescription medications. And I saw the trajectory of my health going in the wrong direction. I was like, I'm just getting put on more and more medication, and I'm feeling worse, and I'm just not getting any healthier. And as we all know, when you have multiple diseases like diabetes, high blood pressure, autoimmune disease, I had all of it. The chance of me dying an early death was pretty high.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thinking about your career, man, go back to the whole trauma stuff. I got a lot of respect for guys that did what you did. And I would always remember, man, I'd bring in those traumatic patients, and man, you guys had all the tools ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
When that trauma surgeon, you bring that person with a gunshot wound to the chest, and they got to figure out, well, what organs did it hit? It wasn't, let's take them in to get an x-ray. It was, let's crack that chest open. And they bring the big bolt cutters and cut the ribs. And all of a sudden, you see the doctor just start grabbing the organs and looking what got hit, And I was always amazed by that.
Yeah.
By the time that we would get to the hospital, the whole team was ready to go. We'd put that patient on the table, give the turnover report to the doc, and it's just amazing, man. So much respect for that.
Yeah.
So the plastic surgery side.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously you had a passion for aesthetic medicine. Is that something that you guys offer as well too in your clinic?
Yeah, we do offer aesthetic medicine. So I started off doing a lot of reconstructive surgery. I was doing jaw fractures and breast cancer reconstruction. But then what happens is, just being in the field of plastic and reconstructive surgery, you start experimenting with Botox and fillers.
Right.
And all of this had just come out towards the end of that decade that I was practicing. And so I did do some aesthetics as well. And we do incorporate aesthetics into our clinics as well.
Nice. Mm-hmm. Which, right now in the world of aesthetics, when we start talking about a lot of the other things that you guys do at Next Health and we also do at Liquivita, one of the big things, I had Dr. Shino Bay on the podcast.
Oh, I know him. Yes, very well.
And his big thing now is functional aesthetic medicine, where now you're taking a deep dive to figure out why this person's having these issues with their skin. Why is the elasticity of the skin not as good? Collagen production, why isn't it not properly happening? So he's doing comprehensive blood work on his patients, and then his focus is actually nutrients, different vitamins, mineral, amino acids. So I love seeing this big shift even on the aesthetic medicine side.
Yeah, we were doing that at our clinic as well years ago, because we saw that if you were to do any aesthetic procedures on people that were nutrient deficient, had metabolic disease, had their hormones off, the patients would actually not get better from the treatments you were doing. And then they would blame you. They'd be like,
Right.
your treatment was ineffective.
Yeah.
But when you look under the hood of their health, their hemoglobin A1C is through the roof, their hormones are in the toilet. And that is a major factor to play in the success or the non-success of your aesthetic treatments.
Right.
So it should be done first. So anyone listening out there that's going to go do Botox or a tummy tuck or a facelift, make sure that you are checking comprehensive blood work. You've got your health optimized before. I wrote a book on this, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's called Making the Cut. It was the #1 seller on Amazon in plastic surgery for many years.
Wow.
And it talks about all of this. Because when I discovered that key factor, I was like, no one's doing this. So I wrote a book about it. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that I feel like it's going to be a bigger push, and I'm already seeing it even with the biggest medical spa show, which is the AM Spa in Las Vegas. We had the CEO and founder on the podcast as well too, and one of the things they've reached out to the association to get more support with the IV nutrients therapy, because a lot of med spas are implementing these type of procedures. So I think you're going to start seeing a lot of the people in the aesthetics field get more into the wellness side, because they see what the benefits are from there.
We live this world of everything so siloed, right? You have your aesthetics, and then you have your primary care doctor,
Right.
and then maybe you have a functional doctor. It all
And
is
the regenerative medicine
right,
over here, right?
exactly,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
It's all part of the same human physiology and biology, right? And so that's what I love about what you guys are doing too, that you've put everything under one roof, because it does all come together. And if you address all of these different aspects of your health and biology and physiology at the same time, all of it gets better together. But if you leave one out, you struggle with the other ones, right?
Right. So on that topic, Dr. Shah, is, when you look at the biohacking and the wellness space, like there's just tons of different modalities, all these different supplements, like everybody has the best next thing. But one of the things that I've noticed is a lot of people supplement just to supplement. I've noticed that you're big into data, right? So I want to take a deeper dive and hear your perspective on how important data is when it comes to your health.
I mean, data should be the most important thing. So the way I look at data, I put it into two buckets. One is data around studies and what works and what doesn't work and how good a study is. And so, we have this hierarchy of studies where you have case reports, and then you have, and case reports, to me, that's equivalent to like a biohacker on Instagram screaming, everyone needs to eat this food,
Right.
It's just like a one-person report. It means nothing.
Right.
But then it goes all the way up to randomized controlled trials and the meta-analysis, right? And so until a particular treatment modality has multiple randomized controlled trials, I'm hesitant to fully believe that it works on everybody, okay?
Right.
The other thing about data that you have to realize is whenever you get reports from a study, it's on a bell-shaped curve. And what that means is they're telling you what's happening with the average of most people, what affected most people. But then if you look at a bell-shaped curve, on the outsides of that bell shape, you have what's called 1 or 2 standard deviations away, where that same treatment modality caused harm or caused incredibly out of size benefits for certain individuals. So for each individual person, you need to know what part of the bell-shaped curve that you're on. And that's what I call N of 1 data. So there's data that is specific to you and personalized to you. And we have to apply the big research to what's actually working to you, right? And so that's how everyone needs to look at all of these studies and what people are telling you. Yes, there's people that they do really well in the carnivore diet. And then there's people that do really well in the vegan diet.
Right.
But that's because everyone's an N of 1, and you have to see what works for your particular biology.
So when it comes to your particular biology, what type of test are you running on these patients to get that data from their particular body?
Yeah, so we do multiple different forms of testing. I put them into 6 different buckets. So one bucket is your blood work, of course, right? So we're measuring 1,500 different biomarkers in our patients. Then we're looking at their genetics, okay? Then we're looking at data from personalized monitoring devices. Things like I like wearing the Aura Ring. Some people have the Whoop Band. Those are all points of data that we can use, things like HRV and morning heart rate, that help us determine what's going on with their biology. Then we look at their body composition, so skeletal muscle mass, body fat, visceral fat. We're looking at that using special scales and special measuring devices. We're looking at continuous glucose monitor data as well, which is extremely important. Metabolic health is poor in 90% of Americans, and the continuous glucose monitor can help us fix that problem. And then finally, we're just looking at scans as well. So we're doing full body MRIs on our patients too.
Nice.
And so we tie all of these different data points together to have a digital twin pretty much of an individual. And then we can say, okay, let's do this particular intervention. Maybe it's a supplement. Let's see what it does to all of these data points.
Right.
And that's how we need to be running our health.
So you're trending the data, right? You're getting the baseline to start off, and then you're trending it as they get on these different programs.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah. So, and that's kind of like what we do too. I'm actually in the process of writing a book called Your Wellness Data.
There you go.
And I truly believe that, for people to take control of their health, they really need to actually understand their own personal wellness data.
Yes.
Right. And same thing, like I wear my Oura Ring, right? And I primarily wear the Oura Ring is like, I want my sleep data. I want to know how I'm sleeping, if I got to prepare better before I go to sleep, eat at a further time out versus too close because my heart rate's too up. But that personal data, I feel like that's something that's missing with a lot of these companies that have all these different supplements and whatnot. And I think that they could actually get further with their different customized supplements if they had these type of data points that you're talking about.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So with these data points, that full body MRI, you guys have this technology, or you guys are working with someone?
We work with Preventative. I know you interviewed Andrew as well, right?
Yeah. Actually, we're publishing this podcast very soon.
So are we. So I did it. I interviewed him as well. We love working with Preventative. I think they have the best product out there in the deepest research, and so
they do, man.
We are using Preventative scans on all of our patients that come in for certain memberships, and then that's basically what we tie in. We also do another scan of the heart called a Clearly Heart Scan.
Oh yeah, we're doing that too. Yeah. Amazing, right?
It's a game changer, game-changing technology.
So the listeners of yours understand what this Clearly Scan does. And Dr. Davis obviously is an interventional cardiologist. He's huge into this. Like
he and I talked about the Clearly like when we met.
Oh, you guys did? Yeah. So talk a little bit about the Clearly and what type of information you get from doing this type of scan,
right?
Versus what people are used to, like a stress test and stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
So basically, when people used to get their heart worked up, it was always too late and always looking for signs of damage that's already been done.
Right.
That's what a stress test does. It means your heart is not getting enough blood and is stressed out. And now we finally can tell, right? Now what's happened in the last couple of decades is the CAT scanner. So this CAT scanner, the first test that we were doing for the heart was called the coronary calcium score.
Right.
That would measure calcified plaque, so advanced plaque in the heart, and score it from 0 to 1,000. And then we would know how much plaque you have in your arteries. That's a game-changing test because now you're seeing plaque buildup before it actually causes damage to the heart. And I could tell you hundreds of patients of mine have changed the trajectory of their health from getting that scan. And that scan's available in almost every city in the United States for $150 or less. Everyone should consider getting one before the age of 40. It's very low radiation. Now, the Clearly test is a more advanced CAT scan of the heart. Right. It's actually what's called a CT angiogram. So when you have a heart attack, you go in and they put a tube in your artery and they or your vein, and they stick dye in. They do what's called an angiogram. Right. The angiogram would tell us where there are blockages, but it's very invasive. It's not a great test for actually preventative diagnostics. What the Clearly does is it takes that same CAT scan, a little bit longer, so it's a little bit more radiation, and it lays out every one of the 4 major blood vessels of your heart and tells you where there's early plaque and late calcified plaque as well.
Right.
And it uses AI to really help lay out the blood vessels. You can see them in incredible resolution. This is game-changing technology because now we can see way before you have damage to your cardiac muscle where there are blockages. And what's even better is we can track interventions and see if we can turn plaque around on you as well. Right. And we're seeing certain interventions can actually, your body can heal plaque. It can actually reduce the amount of plaque over time. And so that's a mind-blowing, game-changing technology in my view.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So some of those interventions, what are they? Where you actually see the reversal of what the plaque has done?
Yeah, so you have to have a multimodality treatment. Plaque is not due to just cholesterol. I think a lot of people have that misconception. Is due to damage to your arterial blood wall, inflammation in your body. It's due to metabolic health disturbances combined with specific types of cholesterol that can make their way into your artery. Okay.
Right.
And some of the interventions that you can do are addressing all of those factors. Reduce inflammation by, most people have a lot of inflammation due to poor gut health. Most people have high blood pressure. 60% of people over the age of 50 have high blood pressure. They need to get that treated and really tightly managed. And then you can also do cholesterol lowering therapies such as PCSK9 inhibitors, which are extremely helpful to get your cholesterol levels very well controlled without the side effects of statins. I still prescribe statins to patients. I think that they have a benefit. Not everyone should get it. It's one of the most overprescribed medications in history, but I feel like there's certain people that can use it. And also medications that decrease the body's absorption of cholesterol, things like ezetimibe, which some people overabsorb cholesterol from saturated fat, and ezetimibe can help with that as well.
Very interesting. Yeah. So, Doc, you were mentioning about AI with the Clearly, right? And when we're looking at the different technologies that are out there, I'm starting to hear and notice that AI is being implemented in multiple different things. I was talking with True Diagnostics, and they're utilizing a lot of AI as well too to be able to actually predict what's going to happen 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the line based off of previous data of people that have died, etc. The Clearly is obviously one that's using a lot of AI. Prenuvo utilizing a lot of AI, where now they have the ability to actually have greater findings of other type of diseases and other things. So how much are you utilizing AI when it comes to your practice?
I mean, it's woven into everything we do now, actually, to be honest with you. I think AI is going to revolutionize health. I'm on the advisory board for True Diagnostics.
Okay.
And so we talk all the time about how we can finally use methylation patterns on our DNA to give us similar results as to blood test biomarkers and it correlate very well. And that's incredible that now just from a simple cheek swab, how much information we can get versus having to draw blood from people, right? And so we can see and estimate what your hemoglobin A1C is using AI in your methylation pattern, which is mind-blowing.
That's amazing. Man.
So that's the next thing that's coming out with True Diagnostics. I also use AI in our practice to help us synthesize large amounts of data. So every patient, I told you all the data that we're collecting, we actually feed it through an AI, and we have the AI enable our practitioners about what are the things that we should be thinking about, right? And it's and it's really good at spotting longitudinal changes that you might not notice as a human, right? Because humans, it's an incredible amount of data to track month after month after month, but AI can do it easily, right? And so that's another way that we're utilizing AI in our processes. And then we're using simple things with AI too, just even enabling our practitioners to not have to sit there and type away at a computer for hours taking notes. The AI listens and it types in the data for us and it keeps it super organized. So it's a lot of different applications, and I just think it's getting better and better. I just heard today that, the whole world of peptide therapy is that's another game changer that's coming. Stanford's AI tool on discovering peptides has found a peptide that can work better than your GLP-1, but without any of the side effects.
Really?
Right.
Oh, wow.
And, peptides are just a math problem, right? And so the AI is perfectly suited for finding that too.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I hear all these different stories when it comes to AI in the medical field. And, one of the ones, and you were talking a little bit about how it basically empowers the medical provider. Dr. Davis, one of the tests that he would run, was running on the patients, because right now it's not available. You've probably heard of it, the IGL test out of Germany. The IGL test based out of Germany. So Dr. Mark Hyman wrote a whole article about it, right? And the IGL test, what it does, it's a test based out of Germany. and it tests over 900 environmental toxins, all kinds of different toxins.
Yeah.
But the interesting part of that test is that it actually shows that toxin, the DNA adduct, what gene it's attached to,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But then you get this crazy code of this gene, P56.7. So nobody knows what the heck this gene is. So Dr. Davis, initially what he was doing, he'd have to go into the literature to try to figure out, well, what the heck is this gene responsible for? Is it why this person has dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, whatever it is? And what he started doing is utilizing AI, where he plugs this gene code into it and now starts spitting everything up. So now, instead of spending hours trying to research it, AI is getting this information to him quicker.
Incredible.
So for me, I hear those stories. It's like, man, medicine's going to truly change. There's going to be a huge shift in the course of medicine, especially with everything that we see right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's so important to be alive at this moment and be super healthy, because literally in the next 10, 15 years, things are going to be completely unrecognizable in medicine, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Just so much better. We're going to have so much more diagnostic clarity and treatments available for people.
Yeah, I agree, man. So next question for you, Doc.
Yeah.
Mitochondria.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about it.
Big fan of mitochondria.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking you. So mitochondria, man, I'm going to let you just break it down. What are the mitochondria cells? What are they responsible for? How do we enhance them? What is it that you're doing with the mitochondria?
Great question. Okay, so here's how I break it down for my patient, because people hear the word mitochondria and it's kind of like a black box, but many people remember it from high school biology as a powerhouse of our cell, right? What's really interesting about mitochondria is that mitochondria were not part of unicellular organisms when the primordial soup of existence came about. And so what happened was single cell organisms, they could only divide maybe once or twice, and they just didn't have enough energy to survive. Well, then mitochondria, which was a separate organism, came inside and they started living symbiotically, okay? So mitochondria actually have their own DNA that is separate from our DNA, okay? And so you get your mitochondria from your mom. I don't know if you know that or not. It only comes from your mom, right? Exactly, because it doesn't need that separate chromosome from the dad. It just follows the egg and the mom.
Interesting. Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah, exactly. So mitochondria are the powerhouses of your cell. They are what take energy. Well, they take glucose and oxygen and make energy, and they also take other molecules to make energy for you in the form of ATP. Right. And what's important to realize about it is it's not just energy like, oh, I woke up feeling energetic this morning. That's part of it. It's every cell in your body needs energy to do what it needs to do. So your liver cells need energy to detox you. Your heart needs energy to pump blood. Your muscles need energy to help you move. Now, what happens as we age and as we're exposed to toxins and have poor metabolic health is our mitochondria get dysfunctional. They can't produce as much ATP, and we just don't have enough of them, and we don't have enough healthy ones as we age. And this is why having good mitochondria is extremely important. And now we know through recent research what can keep your mitochondria healthier, making enough energy for all of your cells, but also how you can have more mitochondria as well. Because a number of mitochondria, each cell has hundreds to thousands of mitochondria, and you can make more of them with certain interventions, and you can also make them healthier, having your body get rid of the old ones and make new ones.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So what are some of those interventions?
So mitochondria like little bits of stress, okay? So if you expose your body to certain hormetic stresses, like, for example, sauna therapy, cold therapy, high-intensity intermittent training is another form of stress. Short bursts of stress cause old mitochondria that don't work so well to go away and new mitochondria to form and make more energy. And so that's why you really want to incorporate some of these modalities into your weekly health and wellness regime. Having good metabolic health also is extremely important for your mitochondria. And so what that means is if you are somewhere on the verge of diabetes and your average glucose level is high, your mitochondria are also not healthy, okay? And so getting your metabolic health in order is extremely important. Lastly, there's some new supplements that are out there that have been proven in research to increase the number of mitochondria. There's one called urolithin A by a company called Timeline. And urolithin A increases the number of mitochondria and increases their ATP production. It's actually a really interesting supplement. It's made in our gut bacteria. And second thing that you can do is give your mitochondria the precursors it needs to make energy. And that's the whole world of NAD that you hear about all the time. NAD is a precursor of energy. The best form of NAD is either IV NAD, or I like nicotinamide riboside, both orally and IV, because NR is converted to NAD on the inside of the cell. And so people have it has better absorption. Also, people have less negative side effects. You do a lot of IV NAD.
Yeah.
Some people have a hard time tolerating it.
Oh, yeah. Especially if it's going too quick, right?
Yeah.
So all right. So let's talk about that part of mitochondrial health, right? With the NAD, NR. So I want to get your opinion on NR versus NAD versus NMN.
Yeah.
So obviously they all have a little bit of a different function, but when it comes to like mitochondrial health or even cognitive health, how do these work and which one would you prefer? This question is actually popping up more and more.
Everyone's trying to answer this question right now, right? And so the research that I've seen is NAD works. It's important to know the mechanisms of how these things get converted and how they work. NAD works inside the cell. Mitochondria takes it up and turns it to ATP through what's called the electron transport change inside the mitochondria. The problem is getting it from the outside environment into the mitochondria, right? To where it can do its job. So NR is a specific form of the NAD molecule. It's called nicotinamide riboside. And that is taken orally or given IV, and it travels through the bloodstream or your gut and then into the bloodstream much more efficiently, and then it gets turned into NAD inside the cell. And what's important about that is NAD doesn't like to hang out outside of the cell. So when it's in your blood vessels, it can cause that, that chest compression type of pain, nausea, and NR, it stays in that form until it goes inside the cell and then it turns into NAD.
Right.
Now, NMN is another form of this molecule that just has not a lot of research around it. There's only a couple labs doing research around NMN, but also it seems very promising as far as increasing intracellular NAD stores. There's just no IV version of it yet.
Right. Okay, very interesting. I think a lot of the listeners are going to like that response that you just gave. So mitochondria health. So what other type of actual treatments are you doing to help mitochondrial health?
So, one of the main things that we do is we have an entire metabolic health program, and I think it's incredibly important to I think the number one thing people have to do to have healthy mitochondria is make sure that they have good metabolic health. And the reason I want to emphasize that over and over again is because 90% of Americans have some level of poor metabolic health.
Right.
And you discover this by measuring blood biomarkers, and you treat it in multiple modalities. You have to get your nutrition, your movement, your sleep, your stress levels in order. I mentioned earlier, the continuous glucose monitor is something that we use in everyone that has poor metabolic health, because then we can have a daily biomarker, actually every 5-minute biomarker that we can track to see what direction their metabolic health is headed in. We also use, after we get nutrition, we tie them with nutritionists to get their nutrition in order. You have to eliminate sedentary behavior. So we do a lot of work around movement tracking. And then we go to another level for some people that really need it, which is using GLP-1s to help them kind of jumpstart that journey to better metabolic health.
Are you using any peptides for mitochondrial health?
Yeah, we are using peptides as well. So there's peptides like MOTS-C that people use for their mitochondria, and combining that with peptides like GLPs as well for the mitochondrial health. Yeah.
And are you doing any testing to test the mitochondrial health?
Yes. So we just started doing some testing with some companies that we're evaluating their tests for right now. These mitochondrial health testing companies are kind of come and gone, some of them.
Yeah, we've noticed that too.
Yeah, exactly. So we just started working with a new one. I think it's called MitoQ or Maybe that's one that's gone. I can't remember the name right now.
Mitochondrial is the supplement, right? That
Yeah,
had,
you're
the
right. Mitochondrial is a supplement.
CoQ10 in it.
Yes, yes.
So, but there is one though that has become, they're at all the conferences. I
Yeah.
forgot the name. We're looking into it as well too, and we're trying to figure out what's going to be the best test. I mean, historically, we were doing primarily like the VO2 max to look at mitochondrial health, but we really want to look at it really at the cellular level through like blood and that IGL test that we were doing that I was mentioning.
Yeah, I was doing that too.
That had the best according to Dr. Davis. He says that he's never seen any other testing for mitochondrial health the way that one did, which now it's not available. But it would look at mitochondrial clumping, mitochondrial potential, and it was just like you would just you get the baseline, and then when you repeat it after doing all the different treatments, you just saw it light up beautifully, like everything turned green from red.
Incredible.
So if you find out a good test, let us know because we got to help our patients with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So moving on here with some other things, like I want to know more about what you do for yourself when it comes to health and wellness, because it's one thing being able to help a lot of people, but like, what's your number one biohack for Dr. Shah?
I am a believer that it doesn't take one thing, right? As you know, right? So I'm going to answer your question. Probably you won't like this answer because it's not one thing, but I would give you the one thing that I do is have a morning routine.
Right.
I think that more than anything in my health and wellness journey, going from, 50 pounds overweight and having multiple medical problems and being on 10 different medications, the number one thing that saved me was creating a morning routine. And so the number one thing that saved me was creating a morning routine that focuses on multiple aspects of my health that I can do consistently day after day without fail for 30 to 45 minutes. That's what made all the difference for me. So I just do that every single day. I add little bits to it. It's called habit stacking.
Okay.
When I talk to my patients, I always say that the number one thing that you can do before you start any particular intervention is become an expert at forming habits and breaking down bad habits.
That's probably the most important thing, especially because a lot of the stuff that we deal with and what we see with the patients that come through the clinic is lifestyle.
Exactly.
Right. So let's talk about that morning routine, man.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's crack the code. I want to know the morning routine. What is it?
So one thing I discovered that's extremely helpful is I no longer charge my cell phone at my bedside. I don't use it as my clock, My cell phone charger is actually down by my coffee machine. So I put it on there. It's downstairs. It's, I have to go up to my bedroom and start my nighttime routine at night. It gives me 10 to 15 minutes before bed where I don't get exposed to my phone, and 10 to 15 minutes in the morning before I don't get exposed to my phone. That's been a game changer for me. Is decreased stress levels. It's actually improved my HRV just to get the cell phone away from me.
Yeah.
For my patients, I recommend, start just putting it in your closet or your bathroom, but then try to move it as far away from you in the house as possible.
Do you use the alarm clock on your phone to wake up?
I don't wake up with an alarm clock. That's another thing. I never wake up with an alarm clock. Yeah.
When I left out of the fire department, when I retired from the fire department, I told myself I'm never waking up to any kind of alarm or siren, anything, because honestly, for 12 years, I felt it killing me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
for me, that was the beeper. Same thing, the beeper. Wow.
It's just like your heart rate goes up and this adrenaline. It was horrible. It's a horrible feeling. Then the sleep deprivation kicks in. And for me, if I wake up to an alarm clock today, right, I actually have a midday crash.
Yeah.
When I don't wake up to an alarm clock and I wake up just naturally, it's completely different. I don't have a midday crash.
Right.
And the interesting thing is I only sleep about 5 hours. Mm-hmm. I fall asleep when my body tells me to fall asleep, right? And I wake up when my body tells me to wake up. And I feel well rested, refreshed all throughout the day. Now, some people tell me, it's like, hey, you really should get 8 hours. Like, my body just wakes up. I got my aura ring, my data looks good, my readiness score is perfect. I don't know what else to tell you.
Right.
So what else on the morning routine?
So I wake up, I get to the specific area of my house. I think it's really important to have the environment centered around your routines, where I do journaling every morning. So I write about the day before. I do a 5 to 10 minute meditation, not a long one, depending on how I'm feeling for the day. And then after I'm done with journaling, meditation, I'll then read. I'll read for 30 to 45 minutes because I find that my brain is most receptive at that time.
Anything in particular that you're reading?
I always read 2 books. I always read one book on health and wellness, something I'm trying to learn about, and then one book around mindset is what is what I do. So I keep them both there, and depending on how I'm feeling, I'll read one or the other or both.
And then with the meditation, are you doing guided meditation or do you go into your own meditative state?
I just do my own. I am a big believer. For me, what worked for me personally was transcendental meditation, and so for me, transcendental meditation is typically 20 minutes. I don't normally have time to do 20 minutes. So I'll just do 10 of it, but I just do my own. Yeah.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Yeah. So Doc, what's your background ethnicity wise?
I'm Indian. My family's from East India. I was born here in New Jersey, but my parents came from India.
So, I mean, you come from a family that focuses on natural medicine a lot, right? And also energy medicine. So, which I know sometimes physicians are a little bit not willing to talk about it because some people might look at it a little bit weird. But when it comes to bioquantum and frequency medicine, what are your thoughts on it?
I'm so interested in this right now. So my parents, my dad was an Ayurvedic doctor. And so I learned about Ayurveda since I was a kid from my mom and my dad. And so I'm a big believer in plants have a very significant role in medicine. And if you look at a lot of the pharmaceuticals, they're derived from plants. Like, metformin comes from a flower. Like they're all plants that are a lot of the medications we take right now. So there's definitely massive amount of power in plants. And another thing that you just asked me about was the energy side of this. If you look at a lot of what people are talking about in health and wellness is this whole aspect of quantum biology. And I'm doing a deep dive into that right now. They found the microtubules in our neurons actually can initiate a quantum field in our brain that can connect us to the quantum world. Wow. And I've gone down a rabbit hole on this. And if people are interested, just search quantum biology. There is a whole new field of medicine that a lot of very respected scientists and doctors are incredibly interested in. Oh, yeah. Because there's something major there as well.
There really is, man. My mentor in the functional medicine space that I started at the age of 19 with, before I even started at the fire department, Dr. Robert Willix. So Dr. Robert Willix, world-renowned. He was a heart surgeon. Right. He was a chief medical officer of Cenegenics for many years. He studied as a shaman with the natives in Peru. And he was really big into Ayurveda medicine. He was really big into energy medicine. And some of the things that I would hear him talk about with a lot of these other energy guys, it was just like mind blowing. Yeah. And what they were saying, like what you can really tap into and how you're really not even here. And it's just like, so I try to like read and listen to other people talk about it. And you can go down a crazy rabbit hole.
Yeah, you can. But I think it's important, like, especially if you have children right now, this is the new frontiers, right? So the new frontiers are AI, quantum science, and quantum biology. These are the things that our kids need to wrap their heads around now at a young age, because this is where all the science is headed. So they'll be uniquely prepared to understand like what people are talking about. I love that. Right? Yeah. So I talk to my son. My son is 11 years old. I make him watch YouTube videos on quantum biology now. Wow. Yeah.
He's going to be a doctor by 16. He's going to beat you.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see.
So that's amazing, man. So, all right. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about, man, it's like I see it all over social media. We don't offer this. And I always see people at your clinics and they're holding a bag of plasma or whatever's in it, right? Yeah. And it's pretty cool. It's like I see it. I'm like, well, they just did something and they're feeling good. What is it that you're offering?
It's called Therapeutic Plasma Exchange. Therapeutic Plasma Exchange is a treatment that's been available in hospitals for 5 or 6 decades now. It was approved by the FDA in the 60s. And basically, what's so great about it is we're not giving you a chemical or a medicine. We're letting your body actually reset itself and heal itself. So the way the treatment is done is we put an IV in one arm. We remove your blood basically from that arm, about 150, 200 cc's at a time. And then we spin it down in a giant centrifuge, in a very complicated machine that has an incredible amount of science in it. But basically it's a giant centrifuge. Okay. And you know what happens when you put blood in a centrifuge, it separates into plasma and blood cells.
Right.
And through another IV, we give you back your red blood cells because obviously you need your blood. But your plasma is full of all the things your body's trying to detox you from. Toxin buildup, inflammatory cytokines, malformed proteins. It all is living in your plasma. And your liver and your kidneys and your skin is all working extra hard to mitigate the effects of all of this buildup. But, unfortunately, we live in one of the most toxic environments ever in human history right now, and it can't catch up.
Right.
But what this does is when you remove that bag of plasma, we take out all of your plasma and you basically throw it away, you give your body a chance to reset itself.
Okay.
And it allows your body a chance to live toxin-free for a little while, and
Right.
your liver and your kidneys can now catch up and detoxify you from whatever's remaining in your tissues. We also replace that plasma, because plasma is like the liquid part of your blood. You need to replace it with something, with IV fluid and albumin.
Okay.
Albumin is one of the most stickiest proteins in the body. And what albumin does, it goes through your body and it sticks to these toxins. It sticks to these malformed proteins. It's basically a cleanup molecule.
Right.
And so we give you brand new albumin that has no toxins on it. And this furthers the effect of that plasma exchange.
Nice.
Right.
Nice.
So it's a 2 or 3 hour treatment. It's very comfortable. Most people do it with absolutely no problems. And like you said, many of the physicians that we hear about on podcasts and the celebrity health and wellness, they all come to us to do this because we
Right.
have the best protocols and the best scientists and team to execute on this. And so I've done it myself many times. I've had many celebrities and patients come to us to do this, and universally people feel much better from it. And it's because
Absolutely.
your body has a time to catch up.
How does that compare to like the other one that we see, the EBO2?
Yeah, EBO2 is a little bit different. So what EBO2 does is it exposes your blood to ozone, which creates an oxidative stress. And oxidative stress, as we know, in small doses can be really good for eliminating toxins from your body, but also to cause a regeneration of new cells in new mitochondria.
Right.
And so it's a very different, but it looks similar.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I like that. And Dr. Davis, he does
Yeah.
a lot of the EBO2, but this is one thing he actually told me that he wants to talk to you more
Yeah.
about that because it's something that he wants to offer to his
Yeah,
patients.
it's a great
So,
treatment modality.
Great treatment. So, Doc, right now we have a big movement
Mhm.
that's happening with the new administration.
Yeah.
Make America healthy again. What's your view on this?
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. I mean, look, I don't care what political ideology you are. We need Americans to be healthier.
Right.
It is destroying our economy. It's destroying our mood as this human race that's living together on this planet. The rates of depression and anxiety are through the roof right now. And this all comes from poor physiological health. Chronic disease has become rampant. Almost every human living in America will get one chronic disease by the time they turn 50 years old.
Wow.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's absolutely an unmitigated disaster that is happening right now. And so Americans need to be healthy again. The world needs to become healthier again.
I agree.
Right?
Yeah.
But we have to start, because once we can figure this out here in the United States, every other country usually follows us, And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I think it's a fantastic movement. And I'm not political in any way, but I'm a huge believer that we do need to make Americans healthy.
Yeah,
again.
and that's the same thing I say, man. It doesn't matter if you're on the left or the right.
Right.
Like, who doesn't want to be healthy?
Exactly.
Like if you vote against that, we got to check you, for psychiatric issues or
Right.
something,
Right.
So did you think in your career that you would actually see what's happening today with someone like RFK Jr. going and doing what he's doing against, the big pharmaceutical companies, the food companies?
I don't ever think I even thought about it, to be honest with you, until recently. So, I spent the first 20 years in medicine just being part of the machine.
Right.
I was like submitting bills to insurance, getting paid, working in the hospital. I was just part of the machine. And I had no idea why so many people were getting so sick until I got sick myself.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my God, it's the ultra processed food. It's the massive amounts of gut health disturbances caused by ultra processed food and gluten and, dairy and all these things. And then also we're all sedentary now. Like, it all happened kind of simultaneously where we became sedentary and shift work destroying our sleep. And I had no idea this was a problem,
Right,
you know?
right.
And then not to mention all the chemicals being poured out into everything in our water and our food everywhere. And so once I realized it was a problem, it's kind of overwhelming. I think for most people, it's overwhelming
It
to
is.
understand that you're fighting these $1 trillion industries, the food industry, right?
Yeah.
It's a $1 trillion industry. How are we going to fight this? So I guess I didn't realize it was a problem until I realized it's a massive problem. Then I was overwhelmed by the degree of how big of a problem this is. And it has to start somewhere. So I'm so happy that it's become part of the general consciousness now.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing, man. And when we talk about the change in the course of medicine, I think this is a good start.
Yeah.
They appointed a new person to lead the NIH recently, which has the background that we need for our industry. So I think this is our time to shine, man. The next 4 years, we have a really good landscape for the industry in place. So we'll see what happens.
I fully agree. And another part of this too is that I don't think the Western medical system is bad. I just think that it's been asked to do something it was never designed to do.
Right.
Right. I mean, thank God we have such incredible science and therapeutics in this Western medical system that can keep us alive if we get hit by a bus, or we're talking about trauma,
Right.
or we get diagnosed with cancer, or we have a heart attack. Thank God we have that system, right?
Yeah.
But it was never meant to reverse chronic disease.
Right.
So like what you're doing and what I'm doing is we're creating this new system that is focused on health and reversing chronic disease.
Right.
And I think that's where, I think we're in the right place at the right time, because this is where everything all the energy and focus needs to go to. We need to keep our Western medical system. We need these hospitals. We need, in case something really bad happens. But through companies like yours and mine, we create a new system that everyone needs to go to make sure they stay healthy, they find chronic disease early through biomarker testing. And if they do have any chronic disease, we immediately reverse it rather than waiting for someone to get on, a pharmaceutical or end up on the operating room table.
I agree, man. It's well care versus sick care, right?
Exactly.
We're going to take more of that proactive, preventative approach to your health and wellness. So that's what we're here to do for sure. Doc, what is the next biggest breakthrough that you see in this whole functional medicine world or biohacking world?
So I think there's going to be 2 or 3 major advances. Is going to be utilizing AI and deep biomarker testing to have incredible diagnostics available to us very early and very easily. So I think there's going to be a world where we'll just have a machine at home that we can easily, maybe put a little cheek swab in or whatever have you, and we will know with very clear clarity when things are going in the wrong direction, right?
Right.
I also think that every single one of us, our phone will then be our health coach. It will be constantly and consistently guiding us on our health journeys and reversing issues the minute they come up through wearable data, through the biomarker testing that we were talking about, et cetera. And so that whole AI health coaching is going to be a major part of everything like it is right now, just like how we use our phones for everything else, right? And then lastly, I think we're going to have an accelerated course of discovery for peptides and regenerative therapies that we're going to be able to do by using just the sheer power of computing.
Nice.
Like we talked about with Stanford's recent discovery, with the testing that you had mentioned. I think it's all coming together at this moment in time. And, we have this massive industry that was fighting against it, the pharmaceutical industry, right? Fighting against peptides, fighting against regenerative therapies. But I think they can't fight that much longer.
No, I don't think so.
There was just an article today that scientists in Japan are actually reversing paralyzed nerve deficits with stem cells now. Wow. Japan has done an incredible thing where they've realized early that the typical FDA body that they had, the analogous body, was never going to be able to understand regenerative technology. So they created a new governing body, a separate one for regenerative medicine. And so they're rocket blasting past us in regenerative medicine right now. And so we're going to see lots more discoveries like that come.
Amazing. Yeah. Amazing. So Doc, you're a celebrity doctor, right? Who is one celebrity that's out there that you want to see take control of their health?
That's a good one. I would,
I mean, listen,
What do you think
we
about
know
this?
celebrities have the power to influence people. Who is someone out there who is not on our train just yet, that you want to see them say, you know what, I'm going to take control of my health.
I know who. Adam Sandler.
Adam Sandler.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I've seen him live many times in my life, and his health has gone not in the right direction, in my opinion. He said this publicly,
Right.
And so I think that if he were able to just give me 30 minutes of every day, we could make a massive difference in his health trajectory. And he's around my age, so I kind of know how he feels because I was in his body and his health a few years ago, and just how different you feel mentally and physically once you just reverse something, you change the course and direction of your health just 1 degree. That adds up over time. Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's one person I would say needs to have a
Adam
little bit
Sandler.
of a health reset.
We're going to make sure he sees this podcast. This reel that we're going to get from this clip. Adam Sandler's going to see
Yeah,
it.
Adam, Ryan Braun's been trying to get you in to see us for a while now.
We'll make it happen. We'll make it happen. Yeah, on my end, I want to see DJ Khaled.
There you go.
Make that adjustment.
No.
I love him, but I'm sick and tired of seeing him, in the back of his Maybach with the McDonald's and eating it. And, I did see recently he's got like an infrared sauna cold plunge, but it's time to take a deeper dive, which we're going to make that happen at some point.
Yeah, and like DJ Khaled and Adam Sandler, they both have given all of us so much incredible art. Right? Like we don't want them to go away. We want them to still function at their highest level.
I agree.
Right?
Man. I agree.
So,
So Doc, as we wrap up here, if there is one person, we have a lot of doctors that tune into our podcast, but we also have a lot of consumers. If there's one person that resonates with our message today, what is one thing you can leave them off with?
I would say, number one, get your habit forming ability in order. Understand how to form habits, and then everything else will fall behind it. And so a great book written by James Clear is called Atomic Habits. Buy that book and read it. Once you're able to form habits that are good and stack them on top of each other it could be a morning routine, it could be an afternoon routine, whatever it is. And every one of us has bad habits, right? There's something that we need to take out of our lives. Learning how to break down bad habits. There's an actual science behind this, and it's not as hard as people think. So become an expert habit former.
Habit former. I love it. So Doc, where can people find you?
I'm on social media at Darshan Shah MD. My company is Next Health, so www.next-health.com, and drshaw.com is my website.
Amazing. And we're going to include all those links down below.
Thank you, man.
And make sure that people can follow and everything else. So,
Thank
Doc,
you.
it was a pleasure having you on the podcast, and we're going to keep on collaborating and doing bigger things together.
Such a pleasure. I can't wait to have you on mine, actually. So
Absolutely.
As soon as you're in LA, we'll make it happen.
We'll make it happen. Thanks, Doc. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching another episode of A Healthy Point of View podcast. Again, I'm your host, Sam Tejada. Make sure you follow Dr. Shah. Make sure you follow Next Health. Everything's down below. Subscribe, share this with all your people, and we'll see you for the next one.